session in the end, that is question and answers. But to make it harmonious and involving, we would encourage each and every one of you, if you have a question during the session or after the session or even before the session, you use the chat box that is right there on Google Meet or Facebook where you are viewing us. Use the chat box to highlight or to write your question and post it there. By the end of the presentation from our speaker, we're going to read all the questions that are written, that are sent, and then we're going to answer each and every question that you may have if time will allow us to read each and every one. So feel free and let your voice be heard. So at this juncture, I would like to recognize the presence of important partners that we have worked together in this session. Amidst us, there are those who are working with UNHCR, and also I would like to recognize some of us who are working with Department of Refugee Service and those who are working with Windhoek International Kenya. And also we have a partner from Wells Mountain Initiative who have joined us. And like we said before, Dr. Luke is with us from St. Luke's Mugumo Church. Is the one that is linking us on all social media. Dr. Luke is a teacher at St. Luke's and is the Secretary General of the Council of the Mugumo Church, St. Luke, and the Managing Director of Dong Ring Publishing Company, that is DRP, Dong Ring Publishing. So he's the one that is recording the whole session, and would like us to invite him and say a word as he welcomes us to the entire session and starts recording officially. Dr. Luke, welcome.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dr. Luke. I've said before, I am the one managing Dongrin Publishing. Dongrin Publishing is a publishing company. Mostly it work on YouTube and then Facebook. But in future, it will be a great company. That is our dream. Well, you are all welcome. And this section is live on Facebook, and we are going to share it later on YouTube when we are done here. You can invite your friend or they can join through the link. The link is now on Facebook and they can come and participate here. Thank you all. You are highly welcome and feel free. This is a great day. Thank you. Back to you, MC.
Thank you so much, Dr. Luke. So the MC or the moderator of this session is AJ Bull. My name is AJ Bull. I'm a medical student at Egerton University, Nakuru. I'm at level 4 of my medical training. I'm also the founder and the CEO of the Bulwark Empire. That is a conglomeration of like a combination of all other companies or sessions that are put together. And particularly important to us is the Bulwark Academic Refugee Initiative. It's a CBO that is determined to and dedicated to help refugee scholars all over the world to focus on academics and only on refugees. So this session is supposed to be educational, and we're going to be taught much about what it takes to be a refugee in Kenya. And we're going to be given by our able presenter and speaker, a person who has been through everything that we're talking about today, and is going to give us an exposition, a word for word, and a clear explanation of what the Refugee Act that is currently in the Kenyan Parliament is all about and how it's going to affect or influence your decisions and your lives here in Kenya as a refugee. So Providing educational services and opportunities for refugees, especially refugee scholars, is what Bulwark Academic Refugee Initiative is all about. And Bulwark Academic Refugee Initiative, Barry, is what has presented to us today this special session to share our experiences and celebrate World Refugee Day on this particular platform. So to introduce our speaker is none other than Ajak Ajak. You have met him most of the times before because he's one eloquent person that has devoted and dedicated his life to work a lot with refugees. Above all, he has an enormous experience with refugees for many decades and is currently a refugee scholar. So he's a lawyer with focus on refugees, socio-economic rights. So even today, by the way, just to mention, in as much as he's with us, like I mentioned before, he's from another speaking meetings about World Refugee Day alongside other stakeholders from 2 to 4 until this time, and they were live on NTV. So he's one great person that has dedicated his life to help and fight for refugees' rights. And he holds a bachelor's degree in law, that is LLB degree from Moy University School of Law, and he's recently completed his bar training, that is advocates training program at the Kenya School of Law, and awaits his admission to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And he's currently working as a lawyer at the prestigious Oraro and Company Advocates in Nairobi. Influenced by his displaced background, Ajak has dedicated his legal skills and advocacy for refugees' rights in Kakuma refugee camp and in Nairobi. He's worked intensively with various organizations such as Refugee Consortium of Kenya, that is RCK, GIZ and GIZ, and East African Center for Forced Migration and Displacement, that is ESCFMND. And he's also worked with Refugee-Led Research Hub, that is RLRH, as a trainee. He has a vast experience because he's also helped draft and reviewed constitutions of various students and refugee associations since 2015. And he served as an acting speaker and a clerk for the Council of the South Sudanese Students Association of Kenya, SAC. He's currently enrolled as at the Refugee Studies Center, that is RSC, at Oxford University. And in his off time, Jack likes reading, and he has formed a books club where they read a designated book each month to help promote the idea of education among the refugee. So this is one person that has a vast experience as working with refugees, and we're so delighted and privileged today to have him talk to us on this particular day of World Refugee Day. So each and every one of you join us as we welcome Ajak. Mr. Speaker, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elijah Bull. I don't know if we should speak without a video or with a video. I am not being informed of that, and whether any of the circumstances is appropriate or not.
No, you can use the video. That will be most appropriate, and we encourage that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. It is a little bit dim inside here. I don't know if you are able to see me clearly. Happy World Refugee Day to all of you. I believe if some of you are not refugees, you might have interacted with refugees in one way or another, and you may have felt the need or the feeling of humanity that you want to be part of the dialogue for the agenda that there has to be a shift in the refugee management system around the world. And that is why some institutions exist, like RE, who want to advance the agenda for refugees and people who are vulnerable in refugee circumstances, such as women and children. So my name is Ajak Jok Ajak, has been introduced by Dr. Bull. I I understand that our session is only 1 hour, and the Refugee Act is a very bulky document. It's not the 16 pages 2006 Refugee Act. This act is a little bit larger. It's about around 70 pages, and it talks about all sorts of things. So if we have to go in one by one, I think it might take us 3 hours. So, and there are also things that we are already familiar with. There are things that we already know by virtue of being refugees, or by the fact that we have worked with refugees. For instance, if I ask most of you here who is a refugee, I believe you are able to answer that one. So we may not be able to actually go step by step by starting with who is a refugee, what are the circumstances under which a refugee may be given the protection. So my presentation today is going to focus on the opportunities that the new Refugee Act brings to the young refugees like yourself and the refugee families generally, and what can we do at least to ensure that we realize these rights. So that will be the focus of my presentation. But anything that I will have left out, I believe the Q&A that you want to actually know a certain thing, you can always ask it, and I will be at liberty to answer. I cannot pretend to have the monopoly of knowledge. So there are some things that I may not know, or there are some things that may be within the jurisdiction of government of Kenya, which I may not speak to. And in that case, we can only hope things will change. Yeah. So, Santeni Sana for having me. Thank you. So maybe, unless there is anything further that I need to, I think I will need to just delve into the presentation. Unfortunately, I have not prepared slides for all of us. I will be presenting verbally, and I believe I am clear enough. So, Dr. Bull, can you confirm? Am I clear?
Absolutely, you're clear. We can see you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So, the opportunities within the socio-economic inclusion of refugees in the Refugee Act 2021 are majorly, in my understanding, around six. And these six, it is now dependent upon us how we stretch them, how we push them, what we are going to do individually as refugees, and what the refugee organizations are going to do. The new Refugee Act came into force last year was passed or ascended into law on 17th November last year, 2021, and it was gazetted by the government printer on day 23. So basically, and it was said to come into law after 90 days. So on February day 22 of this year 2022, that's when the act came into force. And one of the notable things that we see with the new act is the fact that is provided under section 28 of the act relating to our refugee IDs. And I think every one of us have experienced that challenge. Maybe you have one day worked with your refugee ID, you went to KRA, and then you want to be issued with a KRA PIN, and then they have told you we don't acknowledge this document. And maybe you might have gone to an M-Pesa shop and you want to open an M-Pesa registration account, and you are turned out and they say that this document cannot be used for M-Pesa registration. Under the new act, that thing is going to change, and section 28 says that the refugees should be given proper documentation that is recognized all over Kenya. That is, in simple terms, if you go to any facility or government service institution with your refugee ID, you should be served there, and then without requiring you to give them a proof of registration or any other secondary document that can be issued by the Department of Refugee Services, as it has been changed. It was changed from RAS to DRS in the new act. Those are some of the small changes that have happened. So basically, if you want any service, you will not be told to go to DRS to go and obtain an approval document, for instance, a letter from DRS addressed to KRA or addressed to an institution or addressed to anything. So your refugee ID will be sufficient identification document, just like a Kenya national ID, for you to access some of the services. That is what the new act these days, in terms of reading it superficially without thinking about what the regulations will entail, and whether the regulations are going to come up with some of the restrictions. But it is hoped that actually that will be the status quo, that the refugee ID at the very minimum will help you access services unimpeded. So that is one thing. The second thing is on access to gainful employment, professional practice, and trade. So Section 28 also says that refugees shall be enabled to access gainful employment, practice a trade, or a profession. For instance, Dr. Bull, if he finishes, is entitled to practice medicine in Kenya, unlike previously. Dr. Bull could not. So at least in the previous Act of 2006, it wasn't so clear because it did not come out from the Refugee Act 2006 whether refugees can access the labor market or not. There was no law whatsoever which said that refugees can work in Kenya, except the Citizenship and Immigration Act, which in its regulation stated that for any refugee who might work in Kenya, they are entitled to obtain what is called a Class M permit, or a business Class M work or a business permit, which was issued on precondition that, one, you must have exceptional skills and you must have a specialty that any other ordinary Kenyan or even a professional Kenyan does not have. Such that if you apply under Class M permit and you are a medical, maybe you are a medic, like saying Dr. Bulapte finished, then you will be denied that position because there are many medics in Kenya who are Kenyan and they can do that job. So, under the new act, it is hoped that since the act says that refugees shall have access to gainful employment, that requirement will no longer be there. A refugee will not be required to prove or demonstrate exceptional skills or a specialty for them to work in Kenya. So that is one thing that is hoped in the new act. However, the act is to some extent ambiguous, and especially people in the legal profession still feel like this act is not so clear because it does not say that refugees shall not be required to apply for a work permit. So for someone like me as a lawyer, I'm still very skeptical about the powers that have been given to the cabinet secretary responsible for matters to do with refugee affairs. So because the act says, subject to the special circumstances of the refugees, refugees shall be enabled to access the labor market. So these special circumstances in law are kind of ambiguous, and they can be used both ways. They can be used for positive reasons or can be used for negative reasons. And the minister can decide the special circumstances of refugees is that they are not citizens and they will have to obtain Class M work permit before they can be employed or before they can open a business or before they can practice a trade. So you can imagine, even without demonstrating special skills and you know the circumstances of refugees in Kenya, it means if you apply, your application might be delayed for 1 to 2 months, as you have seen. We are entitled to have IDs, but sometimes you apply for an ID and it takes 6 months, and it takes 1 year, or even 3 months before it can be processed and before you can obtain one. So imagine a situation where refugees will be subjected to apply for a work permit, even though it is gratis, meaning it is free, you don't need to pay anything, and two, you don't have to demonstrate special skills, then no employer, for instance, my employer will not want to wait for 3 months before they can employ me. No employer wants to wait for that duration. And if that is the case, it is going to some extent impede how refugees are going to access the labor market. So the argument on the side of maybe legal scholars is that refugees should be given direct access to the labor market without the need to subject them to precondition of obtaining a work permit. The thoughts under this push is that what would be the importance of having to obtain a work permit if, number one, you will not need to screen someone whether they have special skills. You will not need to screen them whether they have a specialty, and they will not pay anything for that service. So, what would be the point of letting them have to apply for a work permit? So that is the biggest question, and it is a challenge to all of you. It is the right time to start writing articles about it. It's the right time to start debating about it, so that it can come to the limelight and people can become aware that it will not be feasible to subject refugees to conditions such as obtaining the work permit, because these are the bureaucratic conditions that normally impede access to certain services for refugees. So another positive thing, which is I think some of you may have encountered, is what is provided in the Section 31(4), is that refugees under the new law can now change locations. There are designated areas under the new Act still, but at the moment you can still change your location. If, for instance, if you are staying in the refugee camp, and you feel that you have acquired the necessary skills to work in the city or to work in Mombasa, then you can apply to the commissioner for refugee affairs and change your location for your data to be transferred from Kakuma to Nairobi or to Mombasa, where you are going to work or where you are going to live, and you have to demonstrate why you need to relocate. It can be security reasons. It can be employment opportunity that you think it will not be feasible for you to have your data in Kakuma for purpose of application for IDs or anything. So you maybe want to be considered as an urban refugee, or even if you are in Nairobi and you want to change your location, you want to go and live in the camp, that should be allowed under the new act. By extension, also within the new act, now it says that refugees will be required to reside in specific counties. So, as you know previously,
Nairobi Hospital.
Refugees could only be confined in the refugee camp, and those who have been in Kakuma may have witnessed this. You could not leave Kakuma unless you have obtained a travel document for you to either come to Lodwar or anywhere beyond Kakuma, or even for you to go to Lokchogyo. You are required to have a travel document for you to leave the camp setting. Under the new act, only the counties will be designated. So we mean you can travel freely within the county. So if you are leaving Kakuma and you want to come to Lodwar, you will not be required to have a travel permit or a movement pass. So you can move within Turkana County, Turkana West County, and maybe entirely the whole Turkana County. And that is one of the new features. So if you are a student and you are schooling in Lodwa from Kakuma, you can move with your refugee ID. You don't need to go to DRA to obtain a movement pass. So that is one of the advantages. However, there is fear that if you have to leave the Turkana County, for instance, to come to Nairobi, you may be required to have a traveling document because you are going to another county, and the act only acknowledges county within the county movement. So we mean for you to travel outside one county, you have to obtain a travel document.
Because it's not a mass value
under the repeal law, if you are a refugee living in the urban centers, you are free to move from one urban center to another urban center. Currently, it is unclear whether a refugee in Nairobi County who is in urban setting can still move freely to Mombasa, to Nakuru, or anywhere, or whether you'll be required to apply for a travel movement or a movement pass for you to leave Nairobi or for you to go to Mombasa. So those are things that are not clear yet because the regulations are out, and I believe maybe Dr. Bull, once the regulations are out, is going to set up another meeting where we can have a dialogue around the same, and maybe we can even invite someone from DRS who can actually answer some of our questions as to why things are the way they are. And so another thing, and very important thing for that matter, is what is called the social and economic integration. The social and economic integration is provided under Section 34, and this integration has focused only on sharing of institutions. And sharing of institution is seen as, for instance, sharing of public facilities like hospitals and schools. And in the realm of law and in the international understanding of integration, that one is seen as a partial integration. It's not full integration, because a full integration is a long process. It includes even sharing of national resources, but under the Kenyan regime, it only is seen as sharing of facilities. For instance, if you are in Kakuma and you want to go to a hospital, maybe in Nairobi, you can actually travel along the line. If you are in Kakuma, you want to come to Lodwar Referral Hospital. I don't know if there's a referral hospital in Lodwar, which means you can access services within and around the Turkana County, and you will be unimpeded. And unlike, you are not restricted to maybe only accessing services within Kakuma or within Dadaab. So you are expected to access services within the entire Garissa County, and at no charge is something that is a big question that we are still debating about at the moment, whether refugees can access these services free of charge and whether they will be entitled to NHIF card or not. So these are things that we need to start talking about, because for you to access government services, something you may need a MTIBA for women, and you may need an NHIF card. So will refugees be issued NHIF card at the same rate as those of the national or not? So that is subject to debate, and it is still, the discussions are ongoing, and the regulations are almost in their final stage. So coming to the last one, I think, is on the issue of integration within the East African community. This one is very amorphous. It is not clear, and we don't know what is really going to happen about it. The Act only talked about the Act only talked about choosing between one of the two. If you are a refugee from South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo, and you are in Kenya, you can choose to actually be protected under the East African Community Treaty, or you can choose to remain with your refugee status. So that is one thing. And the question that we are asking at this point is, what is the framework of doing this? Because the refugee protection regime is to some extent very different from the national framework and regional integration. For instance, the manner of regaining citizenship is different for various nationalities. For instance, if you are a refugee and you are in Kenya, and let's say you are a refugee from Somali, so if you want to enjoy the benefit, assuming Somali was within the East African community, you want to enjoy the benefit within the East African community. So should you now go to your consular services, which is your embassy, and then apply for nationality, be given a national ID and a passport, and then stay within Kenya? So how will the status of your protection be like in that circumstance? Because you are running away from persecution. Your country has failed to protect you, and that is why you are in Kenya. So once you are in Kenya, is your country able now to protect you while outside your country? So these are some of the big questions that we are asking in relation to integration within the East African community. Or is it going to be Kenya as an East African community state that is going to protect you? Will you enjoy your right within the community as an East African community member, and you will be protected by the government of Kenya or not? Those are some of the things that the regulations have to answer, and the dialogue is open for anyone to make suggestions. But our thoughts on effective ways in which refugees could actually enjoy this kind of social integration was thinking, for instance, it would be good if refugees within the East African community could be allowed to have some sort of cross-border movement with using their refugee IDs without the need to subject them to convention travel documents. For instance, and you don't need to disown or lose your refugee status. So this is what is going to encourage some kind of socio-economic integration. So if you have your refugee ID, then you should be free to cross border and go to Uganda using your refugee ID. Just like if you're a South Sudanese and you have a South Sudanese ID or passport, you should be allowed to cross the border. So those are some of the debates around it. Because it is not clear, the Act only states that refugees within the East African community can opt to enjoy the rights that accrue to them under the East African Community Treaty. And that statement is not sufficient, is not enough. It does not explain much about integration within the community. So let's hope that the regulation will have a comprehensive framework on how you are going to actually enjoy your right within the East African Community Treaty. So the regulations now, which is my parting shot, the regulations under Section 44 will come into effect on 22nd July, which is next month. And so we mean between now up to the second week of July, people are still doing public participation. So your opinion is very crucial at this point, especially for people who have community-based organization. You can write articles, you can write memorandum, and you can submit them to the DRS, or you can submit them to Kituo cha Sheria who have bigger voices, so that they can bring everything on the table, and maybe we'll have a better regulation that are going to be more protective of refugees, that will give them more rights. This act is two-way. It can be used negatively and it can be used positively. However, scholars have said that this act will do one thing. Because it is very explicit, it is going to encourage government response to refugee issues. And that is why you see everyone is celebrating it. So, according to some thoughts, they are saying, since the act now come out clearly and give refugees certain rights, it means the government institution will now be willing to serve refugees with the expected speed. For instance, there should be timeline that if you apply for a service, you must have been served within either 1 week or 2 weeks, or even within a certain short time frame, so that you are, because if a service is delayed, it's like a service that has been denied. So if you apply for an ID, it should be expected that your ID should be out within a month or within 3 weeks. And that is what people are thinking at the moment. And that one can only become clear through the regulation. If the regulation say once a refugee apply within, then the commission or the department has to respond to the application within 7 days, then that is what is going to encourage response or a comprehensive government action towards the refugee service. So at this juncture, I don't want to have like a lecturer. And I want this session to be a little bit interactive, so it would be good to welcome questions. And this is the time now where we focus on answering everything that you have been wondering. And like I said before, there are things that are still, we are hoping that the regulation is going to cure, and things that may need even court action. People may have to go to court for them to become clearer, because the court is the final seat that normally interprets the law. So I understand that there are many groups within and there are various organizations. So it would be good to hear their voices, the understanding of the Refugee Act 2021, and whether it brings a lot of benefits for the refugees as opposed to the old regime. So back to you, Dr. Bull. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our brother Ajak. So thank you so much for that clear explanation of what the Refugee Act is in such a short time. We really appreciate. We know it's such a huge document, and you have captured the most important aspect that is very applicable. And to our viewers and participants that are here, you can write your questions or comments in the chat box, and we're going to read them right away. And also to our friends who are with us on Facebook, we're going to send their comments and views and questions also right here so that we can go through them together. So right now with us, we have a few questions that we can start with as we're waiting for more questions to come through. And one question is from Deng Matthew. The question is, does that mean one can travel using the GID only without having a movement pass in addition?
Okay, thank you very much, Deng Matthew. Yes, like I said before, the Act says under Section 31 that there shall be designated areas or designated counties within which refugees will live. So this means that those designated areas are like a boundary within which refugees can live and operate, and for the easy management. It is not clear whether a refugee can travel outside that county without the refugee ID. But it is clear that a refugee can actually move freely within that county without the need to have any additional documentation apart from the refugee ID. So, for instance, like I demonstrated before, if you want to move from Kakuma all the way to Kainuk, you can come all the way to Kainuk, and you will not be required to have a movement pass. But if you have to go outside Turkana County, it means you will have to have a movement pass because you are going to a different county that has not been designated as a place where refugees can live. So that is the current understanding. But the Act is going, the regulation will make it even much clearer. The regulation will say under which circumstances does a refugee require to have a movement pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I hope that question is clear. So the other one is from Ahmed. He said, when is the act going into action?
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. The act came in force on 22nd of February 2022. So the act is already in force. But however, there is what is called operative regulation or operational procedure. That operational procedure is what we call a regulation. A regulation is what tells a government department what they need to do. For instance, once the regulations are passed, and then you go to KRA, and then you say that you want a KRA PIN, then the regulations will tell KRA PIN what they will require. So those regulations are what we are waiting for. So once the regulations are out, which I have already said they will be out on or before 22nd of July, they will be out on or before anytime. They can be out anytime before 22nd of July, unless there are exceptional circumstances within which the Department of Refugee Affairs will request, and the cabinet minister responsible for refugee affairs will have to request that we need more time to consult with the stakeholders or to improve the regulations. But as things stand, it is expected that the regulations will be out on or before 22nd of July 2022. So the act is in effect, but some government department will tell you, we cannot serve you because we don't know what we are supposed to follow. We don't know what we are supposed to do. So once the regulations are out, they will be served in various government departments, starting with DRS, going all the way to Kenya Revenue Authority, going all the way to Huduma, and all the Huduma centers, all the service centers. They will have the regulations, and they will know what to follow and what documents they will require. For instance, banking institutions. So the banking institution under the regulation, you might require the refugee ID only. They do not know that at the moment. Or will they require the refugee ID together with the proof of registration? That is something that can only be determined by regulation. So, but the act is very clear that the refugee ID shall have the same status as a foreign certificate. But what is confusing is that a foreign certificate is issued to persons who have work or residential permit. So, will refugees be required to have a work permit in order for them to apply for banking services or any? It is not clear. It is not clear yet. That is why the regulations, everyone is looking up to the regulations, and people want to improve the regulations so that you're not subjected to certain things. I hope that answers your question, Hamid.
I hope so too. And then the other question is from Aden Ishmael. He said, where can we channel our views on the participation of these regulations? Any link to DRS?
Thank you, Aden. The DRS is available online. They have a website,
My refugees,
and there will be what is called the public participation forum. It is yet to come for Nairobi, but they are already doing it in Kakuma, and I think they have already done for Dadaab. I'm not so sure yet. But if you want to know, you can always go to the website of DRS. There are their contacts.
They are talking
And it would
about
be very important for you to
new
always
acts
check in to see
the
when are
refugees.
they going to
So
advertise for a forum
Kenya,
in Nairobi, so that if you are in Nairobi, you are able to come and contribute on the live discussion, because they're going to call all the stakeholders, including refugees, including Kituo cha Sheria, and some even farms. So that is the time you come and you pen your ideas, you propagate them, you advocate that this need to be done because of this and this. In the meantime, you can write articles, send it to them. You can write a memorandum and send it to them. You have the benefit of Stanley Nyale, who was with us in Coast. So you can always call him and he will update you on what is going on and when is this thing going to happen and when will it not. So he will always tell you that these people are currently in Dadaab or they are in Mombasa. So that is what you have to do. You just have to follow up. You can also partner with organizations like the Bari and other community-based organizations that you know, like the Refugee Youth Education Hub and other organizations such as Kituo cha Sheria. You can make suggestions, you can call. So this is what you do in this case, because one of the things that refugees are looking forward to is that we need a forum or voices which can be heard. For instance, we need to have a lobby group within parliament. There has to be committees that receive maybe refugee complaints and then address them to the parliament directly. So those are some of the things that are not clear yet. But we hope that these things will become clearer as time. Then address them to the parliament directly. So those are some of the way of deciding the camp. And the reason behind this thinking is that the government believe, although there is no evidence, that the camp as a screening up for terrorism and other crimes, which according to the cases that have been taken to court so far, there is no shred of evidence or convictions of refugees who have been involved in terrorism or crimes that have been made in this camp. You have seen all the terrorist activities that have happened in Kenya. You know, the abduction side in Garissa, Garissa is active. The Wajir side, Saga, and none of them is a refugee. So these some things are political gimmicks, and as you understand the nature of politics, people always want to impress the voters and want to cause a blame on a certain section, and especially for refugees who do not have voting rights. So those are some of the challenges that we have to deal with as refugees. But in the long run, Kenya really wants to work toward the closure of refugee camps. But that doesn't mean the refugees will be returned forcibly. It means they have to come with a better framework of how to close the refugee camps, such as the new act which works on integration. So if you are talking about integration, then you should give full-scale integration so that refugees do not reside in specific or in one place. And you can give such rights as access to citizenship for those who want to have Kenyan citizenship.
Yes. So then Matthew has another question. He said processing ID usually delays so much till some expired. Okay. So then Matthew said processing ID usually delays so much till some expire before they are picked. Will that improve? Will they improve on that? Do the new laws mean equal pay for both refugees and nationals based on qualifications?
Sorry?
Deng Matthew has asked a question if the new law means equal pay for both refugees and nationals based on qualification. And his other question is the processing of refugee ID card usually delays so much to the point that some expire even before they are picked. So will that improve?
Yeah, thank you. Even under the new law, even under the old regime, there was no requirement that refugees will be paid discriminatorily. And the basis of employment law is the Kenya Employment Act, the Kenya Labor Relations Act, and Article 41 on fair labor practices in Kenya. Article 41, sorry. And if you read all these things, there is nowhere that the law requires refugees to be discriminated on pay basis. So this is purely something that people can go to court about, and people have to put up their negotiation power, and you can enjoy the rights that are provided under the Labor Relations Act, such as going on strike, picketing, and doing all those things, because the law does not discriminate refugees on payment. It is a matter of discrimination and should be treated as such. People should go on strike and they should work, especially these refugee agencies such as LWF. It is so unreasonable for LWF to start paying refugees who have degrees. It will make sense if you are a refugee who just finished Form 4 and you are coming back to teach. That is seen as voluntary. Voluntary, you cannot be paid the same way with someone who has a degree and their profession is teaching. But it is so bad when I learned lately that the refugees who have finished degrees in education and they are being paid less. That one is utter discrimination, and you can take it to court and you can ask for better bargaining power. It is a matter of bargaining. There is no law that requires refugees to be paid in a certain way or in a certain way. The employment laws are very clear and straightforward. Everyone should be treated equal, regardless of status, sex, gender, or anything. On the issue of refugee IDs and the delay on expiry, that is the only hope that people are thinking. And people are thinking of putting timelines within the regulations such that refugees IDs should be processed within a specific period. For instance, when it says 4 weeks, it should absolutely be 4 weeks, unless there is a reason why there is a delay. So that is the current state of affairs, and that is what the Act wants to cure. They want to provide framework and timelines within which the government department must be able to serve refugees. without delay or undue delay for that matter.
Thank you. A comment from Angok Dential. He said, "Thank you, Brother Ajak, for this amazing presentation." And then there is a question from Ayol Mao. Said, "Last year I tried to acquire a KRA PIN, but I was told that my refugee ID was not updated. So what can I really do so that I can acquire KRA?"
Oh, thank you, Ayol and Angok Dential. What I don't know about Ayol is what I don't know the nature of update that she wants. Is it that is expired, or what kind of update were you seeking for? It would be good to understand the context of updating the ID, because the only circumstance under which you can update your ID is maybe when it has expired and you have to apply for a renewal. And if that is the case, you cannot obtain a KRA PIN using an expired ID. You have to actually apply for a new ID, obtain a new ID, then now you can apply for KRA PIN. And under the new law, it means you can begin your applications maybe after the regulations are out, which is next month. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. And William Alok Madong said, "Are student IDs and alien IDs not enough to be allowed to move from refugee camps to your school in urban?"
Very interesting question. This is this is a very interesting question, and I can tell you for free, it is not certain at the moment. I cannot lie. Let me not lie on her that this will be the situation or it may not be the situation. Let's hope that they will understand that once you are a student, you have a student ID, and you are schooling outside a certain county. Can they allow you? I don't know that. And maybe it's one of the things we should put in the discussion. Because if you're a student, what else do you need to prove? Do you need to prove by producing an admission letter or anything? So, but the general understanding of the law is that anyone, whether you're a student or anyone, and you are living one location, maybe one county, and you're going to a different county, you will have to be subjected to obtaining a permit or a movement pass. Although it is not really clear under the Act, because the understanding is that if the Act provides for designated areas, then there is need that you leave that designated area unless you are given certain documentation. So the dialogue is still open. Personally, I believe that free movement of refugees should be unimpeded, and that is those are my thoughts. Even for the articles that I've written, I've always think that the refugees should be given free movement across the country. There is no need to impede their movement. Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much. That should be the case. Hamid said, "Thank you, Brother Jack." And Aden Ishmael also said, "This is what seems like a discriminating policy in place by DRS, where the expiry date of the movement passes of Kakuma refugees and Dadabians is totally different, particularly students. I.e., Kakuma students have 1 year expiry, while Dadabians it's 3 months. Having this in mind, how much can we trust these regulations equally cover all refugees in Kenya?"
Oh, thank you, Aden. Yeah, this question actually came up in the last set of questions that we had asked in Mombasa, and actually asked that one because it was curious for me. I thought it was 1 year for both students in Dadaab and also students in Kakuma. I didn't know of that one. I thought if you are a student, you are in university, and you may be expected to stay longer than 6 months, you'll be given at least a 1 year validity for your movement pass. But I learned from Mr. Nyale that, unfortunately, that is not.
Absolutely. And it seems Aden is so much involved and we really love him. So he has another question saying, what do these regulations say about someone who wants to give up on their refugee status? Is there room for immediate integration, such as issuance of national IDs, or they will be sent back to their home country?
Oh, okay, yes. Thank you, Adam. There are three ways you can lose your refugee status that are based on irreversible. There are other ways you can lose your refugee status that they are were wrong even. But the ones that are prohibited are correct. That I'm going to talk to you because of number one is if you want to leave your residency in Kenya, which is normally the last stage of what is called immigration. And so you have to prove that you cannot hide from those basically citizen of Kenya. Then you have to follow what is provided in the Refugee Act and what is provided in the Immigration, in the Citizenship and Immigration Act. Section 13 of the Citizenship and Immigration Act requires any person that is a refugee or a foreign national who has been lawfully resident in Kenya for more than 7 years to apply for immigration. So if you want to be integrated into the Kenyan community, the Kenyan society, you can apply having stayed in Kenya for 7 years, that you spoke the Swahili language. There are so many other factors that have been provided, such as having certain skills and having certain credentials and having not been convicted for the duration of lawful stay in Kenya. For instance, if you've been in Kenya for 7 years, you must have not been convicted for any crime that could attract a year's imprisonment sentence or a fine exceeding 5 billion. I'm not so sure on that to confirm. So those are some of the things. But from a previous experience and from what I've had from scholars in that sector, this is even before my during our discussion at the Kenya Express Live and the NTV. One of the before the senior representative was said that the problem with the refugee application procedures is that they are not responded to. Like you can apply for non-credential application to be processed for 10 years, and so people give up in the process. And they have said that the reason for this is that it was not clear at the time whether refugees could be helped. And there was a general fear that if they open this door, there is likelihood that all refugees might actually apply for citizenship. But also she said that actually the most of refugees are not willing to incorporate into the Kenyan society. They don't want to lose the nationality. They want to remain refugees and possibly go back to their country or be resettled to the first world countries such as the UK, the Americas, and some other countries like Canada and Australia. And those are the factors that influence them to do so because only few have applied since then. So that is the current state of affairs. If you want to apply for resettlement, that process is also open. But if you want to return back to your home country, there is a procedure that is provided. So you'll have to report to the DRS. In case that you really want to go back home, they are going to start your process. They are going to look on how they can assist you when you go back home to your country. So those procedures are available to you, but you have to choose one. If you choose to go back home, it is open. If you choose to be integrated, it's open. If you choose resettlement, you have to wait and see where the terms and conditions are open. So thank you.
Aden has said, thank you, sir. So Aden has said, thank you, sir. And there is a comment of gratitude from your Monica. Thank you, Maulana, for such an explicit explanation. For long, brilliant refugee students have been exploited, especially those managed by national boards. Imagine sitting in the same class with a citizen, then when it comes to do internship, Kenyans are paid while non-citizens with the same competence receive nothing. It's demoralizing. Viva to those who came up with this act. Thank you, Monica. And a question, sure, a question from Paul Den. Is it possible for a refugee to acquire citizenship in the country he or she resides? I think that question has been answered already. Yeah, it's possible. There are those three options to request for integration, request for repatriation, or request for resettlement. Those options are there. Monica Young has also said your input on refugee children born in Kenya. Of course, they have the Kenyan birth certificates, but when it comes to processing a national ID, the Constitution demands for parents' ID, which are never available. How can such be done? That's too bad. A question from Ibrahim Dahir Korane. Say, any comment on land ownership by refugees? you have money and you want to acquire land, it's okay. 99 years, it's a lot. Anyway, so there's a very interesting question here from Manur Manur. He said, "Hi all. What about our interns, especially the medics who are mandatory to do internship for a whole year for licensing, and the fellow interns from Kenya are paid very well, but refugees are just there and nothing in return. The issue of internship is so discouraging to the refugee medics. I can feel this."
Yeah, I think I have interacted from both tried to find so much. That both work really a very sad situation. And I think the problem is the institution, especially the Ministry of Health. I think the Ministry of Health, Dr. Bull, I think you are much aware, but I am not so sure whether it is the Ministry of Health that is supposed to provide for better remuneration or not. But looking from the point of us as lawyers, we normally go with what is called a prescription. And if you are a refugee student and you undergo PhD, you'll be paid just like a normal person. And maybe it is because our employers understand the law. And I can tell you from this, that one is discrimination. There is nothing, and there is no law which says that refugees cannot be remunerated. There is no law. So it is basically discrimination. Otherwise, there would have been no basis for paying refugee students who are doing privileged. It is almost the same as medical internship or medical school, something like that. I think it is something related to medical college. So, unless you are doing what is called physical assistance, sometimes your money will not be in return. And so, you should be very clear whether what you are being placed now is an employment or not an employment. If the Kenyan students are paid, there is no reason why you should not pay. And I think you should start dialoguing on such basis. They should be able to show you the law that excludes. If they come out, then it is discrimination. Because there has to be a law which says that a refugee student who is doing internship in the medical field cannot obtain this or cannot be entitled to this kind and such thing. If there is no law, this is discrimination.
Sure, by the way, that is how it is. And the discrimination is coming from the Ministry of Health because all medics who are finished, they are deployed to the various internship centers through balloting, by the way. So the discrimination comes when the Ministry of Health is supposed to give the payment that is um, given to all others, but only at this point, refugees and non-citizens are left out. So that is something that needs to be actually talked about and discussed, especially with the Ministry of Health. Thank you so much for that. We have a question from Hello, we are full. Okay.
Yes, I think on the same uh, paid or unpaid internship, I think it's not only Ministry of Health, but all government departments, government ministries, and parastatals or agencies, they all discriminate refugees and Kenyans when it comes to attachment and internship government system. So it does not only apply for refugees.
Okay. That is really so sad.
I believe maybe we don't know information about that, but they don't pay any refugee or non-citizen when we are working with them under attachment and internship.
Okay. That's really sad.
That is something really sad.
So, Ayol Maus clarified the point of his expired ID. He said that my ID had not expired. I went to the KRA to open a bank account. And actually, that's what happened. Most banks have not updated their system to include refugee ID card. Instead, they accept aliens. But once you present yourself with a refugee ID card, there is an issue. But others are lenient, especially when you go to their manager scan and incorporate your refugee ID card as an alien ID card which is in the system. And I hope that will change with the new act. At least there's hope for that. Absolutely, absolutely. And even to add much weight to it, a representative from DRA has also confirmed here. Your mouth visit DRA headquarters, ask for head of documentation. Personally, I also acquired my KRA PIN through the DRA office. Once you have a letter showing from the school in which you're in or the institution recognizing you as the student, it's easier to acquire the KRA PIN. So thank you so much, Madam Angela, for that. And thank you for your input. We really appreciate it. The next question is it's also a comment from William Malong Madong. Thank you for the clarification. That point of student ID and alien ID. Um, we have a question from Del Ruben Deng. Thanks, Brother Jack, Jock, and AJ Bull. We are learning a lot from this session. My question is as follows. After acquiring my alien ID in Kakuma camp, then it expires when I'm at school, Nairobi. Then go to Eldoret and replace it where it will now indicate place of residence as Eldoret. Does this change my status to urban refugee because of new alien? Absolutely. And a very interesting question here from Del Ruben Day. Can persons with disabilities enjoy affirmative action using the Act when it comes to services and opportunities? Persons with disabilities. interesting question here from Bernard M. to Korir. Can you adopt a refugee and make them have the same rights? The issue of adoption.
Yeah, adoption is a legal right and it applies to everywhere. The challenge is whether most of them are foreigners or refugees. Because a Kenyan adopting a foreigner is not a problem. A foreigner
Sure.
adopting a Kenyan is a huge problem.
Yeah, the question is from a national
Sorry,
adopting a refugee.
a national adopting a refugee, that is allowed actually. You can adopt anyone. So long as there is proof of citizenship that you have to participate in the process to go and take care of that child and that the child will have a decent and a better life. So those are the things that are required. What is typically what is called a cross-border adoption. Cross-border adoption is typically because of child trafficking or trafficking. And the law is trying to limit the cross-border adoption because you don't know when a child is adopted in Kenya, what will be done to that child when they are taken to America. And that is why the law is trying to be protective of such scenarios, whereby you want to adopt a child and then you go illegally with them. Mostly the law provides for guardianship in such situations when it is cross-border and it is possible. Guardianship will be required so that you're able to have such a family maybe for 3 months and then you're able to come back with the child and the child is able to live within the system of Kenya and back again. So that one there is confidence and there is proof of good intentions. You're able to go maybe legally with the child and then after 4 months when they are in school you come back to Kenya with them. There is no problem. But all of them they are legal adoption, cross-border, even local adoption and guardianship. They are all one and the same. The problem is you have to prove good intentions and you have to be someone who is known to the Kenyan authorities or someone who is easy for people to be traced. You are easily traceable. So if you are a celebrity, it is so easy for you to adopt. But if you are someone no one knows and people are hearing from you for the first time, maybe hearing from you on the children's office, it will be so hard for you. You will have to provide a lot of details for them to allow that child to adopt.
Wow. So, Korir, I hope you've heard. And Young Monica has said that can students be given 4 years movement passes going to the camp to activate movement cards? I mean, to activate cards is inconveniences a lot, but I hope that was answered before. And she said, thank you, Maulana and Jack. The point is home. Viva Dr. AJ Bull. The moderation is awesome. Oh, thank you so much for that. And a question from, also a comment from Ibrahim Dahil Korane. Thank you, Ajak. And a question from Yusuf Majid. There is the instance where some of the students face challenges of meeting the scholarship requirements in the name of eligibility. What do you think the law may come? What do you think the law may come in, putting into consideration that they already have the Kenyan primary and secondary certificates, which is an attesting evidence that to their qualifications?
Okay, let me start with Monica Young on the issue of 4 years movement pass. I think that is not doable within the Kenyan constitution. It will be so hard, but it will be good because this is where the scholarship comes in, where you have to buy, you have to certificate, and then now it's time to go and talk about the bicycle.
listed it as the issue of eligibility, and the person already has primary and secondary certificates, which, according to him, is attesting evidence to their qualifications.
Or
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. EJ. My question is, actually, I believe most of the refugee students started primary education here in Kenya and also their secondary education here in Kenya. They have their mandate. But when it comes to applying for the scholarship, you will find that they may even take 2 to 3 years just because they are told you are under eligibility. So I was like,
oh yes,
yeah. So okay, I think you'll get me from there.
yeah.
Okay, back to you.
Commissioner was wrong, and the minister in saying that you are not entitled to refugee status, they will be compelled to admit you and register you as a refugee. I think that makes it a little bit clearer.
Wow, I believe that is really clear. Now, this interesting question here. Can a refugee who is married to Kenyan seek citizenship under the new law?
Yeah, even under the old law, it existed. As long as you married a Kenyan and you want to become a Kenyan by virtue of marriage, you are allowed. It is under the Kenyan Constitution of 2010, and that right is unimpeded. So you can become a citizen by marriage, which is called naturalization. So you can become naturalized by marrying a Kenyan woman or by marrying a Kenyan man.
Okay. Guys, I hope you're getting your tips. Timothy Joseph said, enjoying the discussion. What are the procedures for acquiring a work permit as a refugee? Are there any charges to be paid? Maybe to comment on this, recently when I went to the DRS office, they have a procedure on how to acquire a work permit. You come with a letter of acceptance from the employer that you have been given this work and this job, and then you apply for work permit. And DRS, they offer work permits. They facilitate the acquisition of work permits, and there is no payment as long as you're a refugee. Now, okay, I think there might be a point in there, but that's what they had at the wall of the rooms in the DRS office. But more clarification on that will surface.
I think you have got it right. There is no, number one, there is no payment under the Citizenship and Immigration Act regulations of 2011. Class M work permit, which is the work permit that is given to refugees, is offered gratis. You cannot even pay a single cent, not even the processing fee. You are not required to pay the 10,000 for processing. It is given free of charge as long as you provide a letter of offer from the employer and a letter from the DRS confirming that you're a bona fide refugee, which under the new act now, I don't think there will be need to provide a letter from DRS. And we are not sure yet whether there will be need for one to acquire the refugee, for the one to have to apply for a Class M work permit under the new law. So it's not clear yet. Some people think it will be there. Some people think no. Since the act is very clear, there will be no need for Class M, as I had explained earlier. And so that's it.
Oh, thanks. And guys, one major intention for having such a discussion is so that we can start the process of coming up with solutions to some of the problems that we are facing, because we need to be problem solvers. So out of this amazing discussion, there is a comment from Monica Yom. Can the UNHCR and other stakeholders in charge of refugee affairs take the lead in advocating for payment of interns? Imagine 12 months working for free while your classmates are getting paid. DAFI should consider remitting cash-based interventions to interns because they're still vulnerable. No job. The difference is just the fact that they have graduated. And still on the same note, thanks for your inputs, bros. That is from Manure. For the issue of unpaid internships, since we have agreed it's discrimination, what is the solution for our problems? Because we need an influencer like Brother Jack to voice for the refugee graduates. I think we need to do something on that. Thank you for this wonderful session. So guys, it's important that we, even after this session, we're almost done. It's important to pick up this conversation and we voice our issues, because out of such is when we'll get solutions. Thank you so much for that. Maybe Brother Jack can say a comment on that.
Yeah, nothing comes easy, and this one thing I'm saying, that our community leaders as refugees and our community-based organizations, we believe these are our bigger voices, and these people should push for our right. We do not have a caucus, parliamentary caucuses. We don't have them. And the only parliamentary caucuses which we have are this community-based organization and the organization that assist and work with refugees. And that's why we have been emphasizing what is called refugee-led organization. And if you have seen, there is a shift in the management of refugee affairs. Refugees need to be given a seat on the table. And for you to be given a seat on the table is not for you to go and sit down and eat with those who invited you on the table. It is for you to go and say, I have left my brother here and they are unable to do this. And I want this to be done. And so it's like Dr. Bulla has suggested, please, you need to pick it up. It can be a demonstration, it can be all of you forming an association, all the medical students, whether you're a foreign national, whether you're a refugee, and you are medics, and then you do something massive that people will have to listen to. That is what is it. So it is what is called proactive advocacy. You know, there is a lazy advocacy where you know the problem and you do nothing about it. So it could even be about going to court and challenging these procedures as discriminatory. All in all, it is up to you to decide what you want to do. You want to go to court, you want to write about it, you want to moot about it. You can even start it as a moot question in schools. So it's something that is entirely up to you. You can always engage these organizations to fund your programs. So if you want to file a lawsuit, you can file a lawsuit and you make sure it is funded by one of the CBOs or by one of the agencies that is working with the UN, such as Kitocha Sharia and Amnesty International. That is absolutely up to you. But if you want various ways in which you can penetrate, I can always suggest. So one of the ways is through litigation. One of the ways is through strikes. One of the ways is through engaging people like Amnesty International so that they can fund an event that will be shown on the national television. And then you engage the journalists so that they can make it to appear on the national television. Then that's how the discussion begins. So the moment is heard on the TV that the refugee medics are being discriminated because of this one, it becomes now a topic to discuss. Maybe someone was doing it illegally. So they will start now fearing and they will start giving opportunities to refugee students. So that is how to go about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to stress on this point, so Manur and Monica Yom and any other person that is affected here, we should meet and talk immediately after this session. Should do something actually. So almost coming to the tail end of this conversation. Del Ruben Deng as a comment. Thank you, brother Jack Jock. Your answers are so educative. Thanks to AJ. Jack.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Paul Deng said, thanks Maulana Jack for well explanation on how refugees may acquire citizenship. That is true. Bernard Kip Korir has said, as a national and having interacted with only 2 refugees, I am grateful for this exposure. God bless you, Jack and Bull. Thank you so much also, Bernard. Kip Korir. Coming to the tail end from Angok Deng Tial. Thank you, Ajak, for this fruitful and explicit discussion and articulate moderation, AJ Bull. But this incident that you have KRA PIN that you have acquired using alien ID card, and you will always be notified by KRA to pay. My question is, are you supposed to pay KRA some money yet you ain't doing no business?
Oh, yes. Yes,
the issue of finding
for that question is very important, by the way. I need to make it very clear. Once you have a KRA PIN, now you acquire an obligation on your part that you have to do. And that obligation is that you have to file what is called tax return. And if you fail to file tax return on 30th of June every year, it is an offense. And KRA can fine you. So even if you are not earning anything, you must file what is called zero return. And zero return is easy to file. So you just go, they're going to send you a link, go to the link, and then you follow the procedure that they equally provide to you in the email. Once you have filed your zero return, you are safe. So there's nothing to go about it. But it's always important to file because they might even keep quiet about it right now. But when a big opportunity hits, they will tell you this guy does not pay tax. And so that opportunity will have been lost. So it is always good to file your returns. And it is also part of the learning process as law-abiding citizens. We always want to be on alert and try to follow the law, even if it costs us nothing. So always file your return. And it means you have 10 days to file your returns because the filing deadline is date 30 of this month. So you must file your return if you have KRA PIN. There is what is called nil return, which means you have no income. So that nil return is what you do. Thank you. But you don't have to pay KRA anything. You don't have to.
Okay. Del Ruben Deng has said, can a refugee represent the country he or she is in sports such as all African games? If yes, which documents can I use to travel?
I don't think you can represent your country, but you can represent the refugees. That category was introduced. I don't know if you are aware. There is a category of what is called displaced persons and refugees. That category now, it means you can represent refugees in Kenya and you will be in the Olympics. And as a recent one, I'm not so sure about it, but I know there is one person who participated. And what you need to do is once you qualify to go for the Olympics, you go and apply for what is called CTD, Convention Travel Document. And your CTD will be issued without any hindrance by the UNHCR. In fact, they are advocating for refugees to engage in sporting activities, and they will be willing to issue you with a CTD once you qualify. So there must be a framework of qualification. Hello. Dr. Bull, are we together?
Yeah, we are together. Absolutely, we are together. So, coming to the very last question before we get a vote of thanks from your Monica. From Ayol Mao, why does having a national ID, for example, a Kenyan ID, and at the same time being a refugee, make one eligible for a refugee scholarship, yet they have evidence provided they are refugees?
Okay, thank you, Ayol. I think you cannot benefit from two sides, yeah. And the reason why there are certain procedures is because the law need to know the rights that accrue to a specific person and the rights that do not accrue to a specific person. And that is why you cannot have both a passport of your own home country and purport to be a refugee at the same time, because you cannot be a refugee if you have the protection of your own country. And it is also provided under the Act, under section, I think it's section 5. Section 5 of the Act says that once you acquire any nationality, you cease to be a refugee. And I'm actually going to read it out. I think I got it right. It's section 5 of the Act. Cessation of refugee status. Yes, it is section 5. Section 5 of the refugee status says that if you voluntarily reacquires the protection of your home country, then you cease to be a refugee. The same thing applies. Once you obtain the nationality of Kenya, you cease to be a refugee, because once you acquire any nationality, you will no longer be a refugee. So we mean you cannot benefit from all the things that accrues to refugees. So that is what the law says under section 5, cessation of refugee status. So the moment you acquire the national ID of any nation, whether it is your home country or whether it is the Kenyan nation, you cease to be a refugee. You entirely become a national of Kenya. You become a Kenyan citizen, and you can benefit from rights that every Kenyan citizen benefits from.
Wow. Okay, that is. I think that is clear. So one final remark from Angela Newto, representative from DRS. If you have a KRA PIN, please file your returns between January and 30th of June. Yeah, sure. During KRA PIN registration, ensure that they understand that there is a difference between an alien card and a refugee ID card. Oh, that is true. And maybe a final remark from your Monica before she gives the vote of thanks. we're really out of time. We were to finish at exactly 9, and it's now 9:02. So your Monica said, yes, we must meet. I would have gone to South Sudan for that 1 year and be constructive than wasting it in the name of internship. Thank you, Ajak. The questions were tough, but you answered so elaborately. Thank you to Dr. AJ Bull. You are a great orator. I don't think so. I came late. This is from Dr. Luke. Atem Nguyen from Facebook has said, I came late. What is the topic of discussion, guys? Atem will follow through the comments. It's recorded, and I think that will be beneficial. Manur has said, I know of many people that have Somali passports and gotten it from Somali embassy in Kenya. So does it mean that in case they are gotten of having that passport in their bag, do they cease from being a refugee? Or maybe that should be the last thing we talk about. Della said, okay, well understood concerning refugee sports. Wow, I think we have tackled literally everything. So we finish with that issue of having a passport and a refugee status, and then vote of thanks from Monica Yom. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll be done.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Dr. AJ Bull. I think this has been very interactive. To answer Manure, yeah, you are right. Once you're found with a passport and a refugee ID, certainly, unless that passport is expired, which demonstrates that you had it before you became a refugee, then it definitely means that if you are reported to the authorities and the authorities are able to ascertain and determine that you are both a refugee and you have reacquired your nationality, then your refugee status will actually cease. And unless there are justifiable reasons which you can produce before the committee and the appeals committee for them not to actually revoke your refugee status. Otherwise, they are going to actually revoke your refugee status. Thank you.
Well, so as a final vote of remark on my part, I would like to say thank you immensely to Ajak. It was a very short notice that I informed you about this, and thank you so much for coming through. And we can attest to the fact that all these answers are really going to school, like isn't Majibu Zimenda Shule. And we've been really helped. This has been a great exposition of the Refugee Act, and I'm sure everything that we wanted to know we have. And it has also come up with other aspects that may bring solutions that are so lasting. And thank you guys for this great conversation. A point of gratitude also to Angela Newtooth, a representative from DRS. She's partnered with us so much and provided us with all the solutions that we need as refugees. And thank you so much, Madam Angela. Thank you a lot. We really appreciate. Na nitakuona in person. Then Dr. Luke, thank you a lot for making us live and creating this link in the entire social media, having representatives from those who are joining us on Facebook and also those who are with us here on Google Meet. Thank you for everything, guys. So let's have a word of appreciation and a vote of thanks from Monica Yom, and then we're done.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right.
Good evening to you.
All right, thank you. I would like to say thank you to the organizers of this very important event. Yes, it's a celebration of World Refugees Day, but at least we've learned about our rights. And by now, all of us are going to be, we have our eyes opened to our rights, and none of us will be taken advantage of. Thank you so much, Dr. AJ, and thank you so much, Maulana Ajak Jok, for the great job that you've done. I would also like to thank the other stakeholders that were part of this, that is the DRI, and every other person that set apart his or her time to be part of this great event. Thank you. We've learned a lot, and I know we are going to be really super spreaders of change, just like we were empowered during our conference in Mombasa. And I believe as we take up this, we are really going to be agents of change and we will spearhead it. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, guys, and have a blessed day and enjoy the rest of the remaining part of the World Refugee Day. And enjoy it so much more knowing your rights. We really appreciate. Thanks you for joining us. I remain as AJ Bull, the founder and the CEO of the Bulwark Academic Refugee Initiative that has organized all this function. Thank you for coming through and have a blessed evening. Goodbye.
Bye.